We first reported our concerns to Worcestershire County Council Social Services regarding the health, welfare and financial affairs of Edward and Lily Smith way back in November 21. At that time, Edward was 86 years old and Lily was 84 years old, and both had significant health issues, including cognitive decline. They had 3 children, Beverly Smith, Susan Smith and Richard Smith. Richard also had 3 children. Everyone lived in Worcestershire apart from Richard and his family, who lived in Australia. Initially, Edward and Lily made all of their children lasting power of attorneys for health and welfare and for property and financial affairs. Additionally, they gave Beverly and Susan consent to discuss medical information with their GP. However, as Worcestershire County Council Social Services became involved, instead of the situation improving, as you would expect, the situation actually worsened. In December 21, Edward and Lily cancelled Beverly's lasting power of attorney and consent to discuss medical information. Then, in September 22, they cancelled Richard's lasting power of attorney, leaving Susan as sole carer and lasting power of attorney. Our main concerns regarding Edward and Lily were as follows. 1. Their physical and mental health was worsening. 2. They no longer had sufficient mental capacity to look after their health, welfare and finances. 3. They were being cared for by Susan, who was unfit to do so because of her history of psychosis, drug addiction and criminality. 4. They were being coerced and controlled by Susan, who was abusing her position as daughter, sole carer and lasting power of attorney for financial gain and to fund her drug addiction. 5. They were being increasingly neglected by Susan because of her worsening drug addiction. We also reported these concerns to Edward and Lily's GP, Lloyd's Bank, the Office of the Public Guardian, Action Fraud and West Mercia Police. However, despite the severity of the situation, it really felt like our concerns were being ignored. This is why we started collecting evidence for publication at a later date. Please refer to the content warning and disclaimer on each of our videos. Incredibly, to authorities everything seemed normal, a family dispute perhaps, but to us it was a no-brainer. Unless authorities worked together effectively and took urgent action, disaster would be inevitable. Sadly, that is exactly what happened, with Edward having all of his money stolen, then eventually dying in December 24 from injuries sustained during his abuse. Here is a list of some of the people and organisations we have contacted regarding the abuse and neglect of Edward and Lily Smith, all aware of the issues we have raised in our videos. We have included the acronyms used in our videos in brackets, but we usually read out full names to avoid confusion, except in obvious cases like MP, GP or NHS. Key people: Conservative MP for Droitwich and Evesham, Edward and Lily Smith's MP. Labour MP for Worcester, our MP. CEO for Worcestershire County Council and CEO for Wychavon District Council, Edward and Lily Smith's local government authorities. Partners at Anthony Collins Solicitors, court-appointed deputies for Edward and Lily Smith. Managing Director for Buckland Care, responsible for Edward and Lily Smith's care home. Relevant organisations: Worcestershire County Council Social Services, responsible for the care, support and safeguarding of vulnerable people. The Office of the Public Guardian, responsible for lasting power of attorneys and court-appointed deputies. Worcestershire Royal Hospital Worcester, Alexandra Hospital Redditch and Princess of Wales Community Hospital Bromsgrove, responsible for the care, treatment and safe discharge of patients. Corbett Medical Practice Droitwich and Abbotswood Medical Centre Pershore, Edward and Lily Smith's GPs. Willowbank House Residential Home, Pershore, responsible for the care, treatment and safeguarding of residents. The Care Quality Commission, responsible for regulating health and social care in England. The Medical Examiner's Office, Worcester, responsible for scrutinising deaths fully and comprehensively. Lloyds Bank, responsible for managing and protecting customer bank accounts. The Department for Work and Pensions, responsible for investigating benefit fraud and theft. Action Fraud, responsible for collating and passing reports to the police. West Mercia Police, responsible for investigating crime and protecting the public. Here are the actions taken by authorities since November 21. June 22. First investigation into lasting power of attorney Susan Smith by the Office of the Public Guardian. August 23. Second investigation into lasting power of attorney Susan Smith by the Office of the Public Guardian. October 23 to January 24. First statutory S42 safeguarding inquiry by Worcestershire County Council Social Services. Takes 3 months. June 24 to March 25. Second statutory S42 safeguarding inquiry and final report by Worcestershire County Council Social Services. Takes 9 months. August 24. Hearing at the Court of Protection by District Judge Mullins. Susan Smith removed as lasting power of attorney and Donna Holmes and Douglas Horton appointed as deputies for the property and financial affairs of Edward and Lily Smith. This hearing resulted from the investigation by the Office of the Public Guardian in August 23 and is the only action that has served any purpose in safeguarding Edward and Lily and preventing Susan from continuing to steal their money. However, none of the actions taken here have considered or investigated the likely coercion and control of Edward and Lily by Susan and the huge amount of money she has taken. Staggeringly, we estimate that from November 21 to October 24, this could amount to nearly £100,000 in cash. But despite this, still no proper investigation by West Mercia Police and absolutely no justice for Edward, Lily or their family. We firmly believe that if authorities, especially Worcestershire County Council Social Services, the Office of the Public Guardian and West Mercia Police had listened to our family and started taking effective action from November 21, the abuse of Edward and Lily could have been prevented, and Edward would almost certainly still be alive today, albeit living with dementia. Instead, any action they have taken has been slow, ineffective, and in some cases, non-existent. It also leaves Susan free to do the same thing to other elderly, vulnerable people if she chooses to do so. Most of what you will see and hear in our videos has been explained at length to countless people and organisations via innumerable emails and telephone calls, far too many to count. Appallingly, the vast majority of these communications have been ignored and the action taken by authorities has been minimal, leaving Susan free to target other elderly vulnerable people should she choose to do so. Considering what was allowed to happen to Edward and Lily Smith, it was only right and proper for Worcestershire County Council to conduct an investigation into the matter. In fact, it is a legal requirement under the Care Act 2014 for local government authorities to carry out such inquiries when required. However, there is one small problem. How this is done is mostly left to the discretion of the local government authority itself, so they are pretty much left to do and say what they want. Call us cynical, but with most local government authorities here in the UK being run as business monopolies, if they get caught screwing things up, they are hardly likely to throw their hands up and say, "Fair cop, governor," and it really is a wee bit naive of central government to expect them to do this, especially in this day and age. When a guilty criminal is brought in for questioning by police, there seem to be two common strategies they could employ. 1. Don't talk, the simple, easy option with less risk, but is generally seen as a sign of guilt and may only be delaying the inevitable. 2. Talk, the complicated, difficult option with more risk, because now a fictional story has to be told, which has to hold water on further questioning. To our great frustration, we have seen authorities use both these strategies, especially Worcestershire County Council Social Services. But it really is quite enlightening when you read some of the stuff they have been forced to publish, especially when you consider how much, by law, most of us have to pay for their services in the form of council tax. The following is from Worcestershire County Council's final report and demonstrates how flippant authorities are when the public dare to bother them with genuine and serious concerns regarding the abuse of elderly, vulnerable people in Worcestershire. The police identify Ian's contact to be incessant, despite the concerns being unsubstantiated by the police. Well, it wasn't just Beverley's partner Ian reporting concerns to West Mercia Police regarding Edward and Lily. Family, friends and neighbours had all done the same and were also ignored. Anyway, Ian actually reported the concerns with Beverley, but he did most of the talking because she was too upset. In any case, if West Mercia Police had actually taken effective action, we would not have had to keep contacting them. Furthermore, our concerns were not unsubstantiated. We had good and compelling evidence, which was eventually acted on by the Court of Protection. The reality of the situation seemed to be West Mercia Police simply did not want to consider this evidence. Just watch our videos and judge for yourself. Remarkably, the only action West Mercia Police seemed to have taken was when Susan, a person with a history of psychosis, drug addiction and criminality, falsely reported Ian, a person with no criminal record whatsoever, for committing actual bodily harm against her and Lily. Despite the previous history of this case and all of the incessant telephone calls we made to West Mercia Police, a decision was made to arrest Ian and take him to Worcester Police Station for questioning. As expected, he was later released with no charge, but only after hours of police time had been wasted. As far as we know, Susan has never been brought in for questioning by West Mercia Police. Manager 1 stated that she considered the excessive amount of emails to be reaching threshold to consider the complainants as vexatious. We would tell Worcestershire County Council Social Services the same as we told West Mercia Police. If they had actually taken effective action, we would not have had to keep contacting them. The following telephone conversations were recorded way back in July 22, when a Worcestershire County Council social worker gave assurances to Beverley and Ian authorities knew about Susan, and steps were going to be taken to safeguard Edward and Lily.
So I've discussed this case with my manager. I'm speaking with the police officer that's dealing with everything on Tuesday. Following that, we will make a decision on getting a social worker involved or to see what needs to be done. And also, I think the police officer is looking at the possible financial abuse, isn't she? I don't know if you've spoken to. No one's been in touch with us on the phone. Okay. Yeah, so she is allocated already. So I will be following that up with her next week. I've also had some contact today with the Office of the Public Guardian. I put my safeguarding referrals through to recommend that I don't feel is an appropriate person to be an appointee with a history.
Yeah.
And in fact, they probably aren't aware of, her involvement in convictions and so on. So they are aware of that now.
Right.
So hopefully that will be followed up as well. So it's just to kind of put you in the loop. But after Tuesday, we'll have a bit more of a clearer plan about what we're going to do as far as your mum and dad and looking at what's happening with them care-wise and to see what's needed.
95% chance you're going to find something bad.
Well, the fact is that she has actually had convictions, hasn't she, for drugs. So that she's already in breach of her power of attorney. So anybody that's got criminal convictions is not allowed to be an attorney. So I've informed them of those.
In the end, neither Worcestershire County Council Social Services nor West Mercia Police bothered to get back to us. They simply went away and ignored the situation. Annoyingly, this has happened time after time, with authorities continuing to ignore us, even to this very day, as serious issues continue to surface. After this, there is some tedious drivel about automated replies. Astonishingly, this seems to be an admission from Worcestershire County Council that, as we suspected, a decision had been made to block our emails. How reckless and irresponsible! And for a local government authority to do this is beyond belief, especially when they knew Edward and Lily were a frail, vulnerable couple in their 80s and suffering with dementia, and Susan, their sole carer, had a history of psychosis, drug addiction and criminality. They talk about new concerns, but only a fool would believe the claptrap that has been written here. We brought many new concerns to them, including inhumane treatment Edward and Lily were subjected to at Willowbank House residential home. Now we have proof we were being deliberately and completely ignored, and so the abuse was allowed to continue. Just watch our videos and see for yourself. Little wonder then that Edward was left to die of malnutrition and dehydration, whilst the person they entrusted with his care was left to systematically drain cash from his bank account. We think there are striking similarities with this case and the case of poor Alfie Steele, who was killed on Edward and Lily's estate back in 21, regarding the attitudes of the authorities in Worcestershire towards the abuse of vulnerable people. Now is a good time to look at Edward and Lily's council tax bill for 24. On it, they claim to provide good services at good value, but from our experience, this claim seems to be very far from the truth. Just watch our videos and decide for yourself. We have highlighted 4 charges contributing to the total charge of nearly £2,540. Of that, more than £2,030 goes to the 2 local government authorities in question, which includes, and this is the best bit, an extra charge of nearly £280 for adult social care. That is an additional charge of £280 for a service that, from our experience, simply does not seem to exist. Just watch our videos and see for yourself. Then there is the more modest charge of nearly £340 for West Mercia Police and the Crime Commissioner, but still, that seems a lot of money for a service that appears to demonstrate such reluctance when it comes to investigating crime.